Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well. I have a very special middle of the night bonus upload. For those of you who recognize the name Eisenhower, Ike Eisenhower, the gentleman who warned us about the military-industrial complex, also our president, he also cared about the American people. Unlike the snake in the grass that came after him, Truman, and all the others, Ike was a man of the people. Tonight, I have his great-granddaughter. She's going to share some information with us, and we are going to have a few discussions about dumbs and other things like that. Before we get into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and the membership are in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They all were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost you a cent. Click that like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because they are. All of these things really do help this channel to continue to grow and go, and it really does matter. Guys, I am pumped, tired, want to give you guys a really good middle of the night bonus upload, so I kind of went through some older videos, and this was it right here. I thought, you know what? Middle of the night, conspiracy theory, former president's great-granddaughter, doesn't get any better. Let's get into it, shall we? All right, so today I have an extra special guest. I have Laura Eisenhower. For you guys who don't know, her great-granddad was President Eisenhower. Laura, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Thank you for agreeing to come on. I know you're very busy with life and everything in general. I have been talking a lot about Dulce and a lot about the government and, like the genetic kind of stuff that went down, and just how the military-industrial complex, big pharma, and big bank are controlling all of our media. And I've been reading a little bit about you, and I know that you've got a lot of information to share. So I'm going to kind of turn the mic over to you and let you kind of lead the conversation, if you would.
Wow. Okay. If you want me to talk about military-industrial complex stuff in relation to Dulce, New Mexico, yeah, I've got quite a lot of information, and a lot of new information, actually.
Okay.
That has come through. I know for a while, most, or at least some of my colleagues and myself, the Dulce information we had was pretty limited. Most of the Dulce information we had was coming through whistleblowers like Phil Schneider and events that took place during the Dulce Wars, right?
Yep.
Can you remind me what year that was? It was in the...
I think it was 72.
The Dulce Wars.
Yeah.
Right. With, yeah, so what I come to discover, which is wild, which being in this community and meeting a lot of different researchers and experiencers, and whistleblowers, there have been levels of top secret information that have not been disclosed. And in the last 2 years, I found out more information than I had found out in, the 10 or 12 years that I was really, pursuing, this kind of information in regards to military-industrial complex, deep ground under military bases, and ET government treaties, right? Yeah. So it was a huge epiphany 2 years ago when I came across somebody named Dan Cooper. I know everybody knows or a lot of people are familiar with William Cooper. This is no association. This is a completely different person. So I don't want people to get confused because William Cooper is a big whistleblower.
Definitely a hero.
Yeah. Right, totally. But this is Dan Cooper. They're not related. It's just one of the common names, so it can get confusing for people. So just right off the bat, when I talk about Dan Cooper, don't mix it up with William Cooper, the one that wrote the Bill of the Pale Horse.
Okay.
Right? And who talks about a lot of this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So anyway, like last year, sometime, I don't know, when I met Dan Cooper, I had just done an interview with Dan Willis and Elena Denon. We did this roundtable, and Dan Willis posted it on his YouTube, and I was looking at the comments, and I see this message from Dan Cooper, who's just saying, no, he's like just dropping a lot of intel. He's dropping a lot of disclosure stuff. He's just saying a lot of things. I'm like, whoa, this guy like knows something here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, here's my email. Like, can you like send me this and we can be in a conversation and I can ask you some questions? Boom, immediately he emails me. For the next couple months after that, him and I had a back and forth through text messages, through emails, and he unloaded the most unbelievable information. The reason I feel this person is so legit is because he doesn't put himself out in the public eye. He's not he didn't like come and like seek me out. Right. I kind of found him, and it just was sort of like perfect. It like no red flags, even though there's some red flags as far as the red flags that he acknowledges that I should have about him as far as the information goes. Okay, some things, I can't say 100% are truth, but there are some things that absolutely, are you can't discredit. But, just like myself, take it with a grain of salt, take what resonates and leave the rest. We all have to have discernment. We're all doing the best we can. But, to have that level of kind of integrity and conversation to like, just like do, because, it's kind of like who's who, like who's a double agent and, disinformation, because there's so many multi-layers in all of this, because compartmentalism and different projects and programs and just,
yeah,
so it gets really confusing. So,
you have no idea who anyone is. Like this guy could have been just, someone trying to ploy you out or whatever, you know what I mean? Or ploy anyone out just to get information.
Right. So we always, have to be careful. So, with some of my questions and some of his answers, he's like, just be just as discerning as you need to be with what I, give you. But I'm going to, tell you, like, this is the information that I have. And it's mind blowing. So when it comes to Dulce, New Mexico, let me just give you a little bit more information about, Dan Cooper.
Okay.
He's claims to be the senior advisor to the Earth Alliance. He was in some of the secret space program, training and back programs, and he was repositioned to serve in a more benevolent way for the best interests of humanity. And I am sort of like off the cuff here, like I'm not going to like read a bio or anything like that. So for the audience that's listening, I'm writing a book and I have a lot more material that will make more sense than I can express in an interview. But let me just share a little bit. And when you want to go for the deeper stuff or like figure out who this person is and where this information is coming from, just seek out more of my information and read my book when it comes out.
Yeah, I'll put links to your stuff in the description below too as well.
Okay, cool. So, there was supposedly a unconditional surrender agreement that took place in 1952. So this is a direct quote. Ike had no choice but to openly comply with the official instrument of surrender, the unconditional surrender of the United States to the Nazis, signed by all of Congress and most of the prominent businessmen of the period on July 19, 1952, when Truman was President of the United States. Eisenhower opposed this, the instrument of surrender of 52. He opposed it secretly by establishing various military and civilian covert units for that purpose. One of them was called Ike's Force, also known as the United States Marine Corps Special Section or USMC Special Section, which survives today. In fact, that U.S. military unit is the most successful military unit opposing the interplanetary corporate conglomerate Nazi Draconian Empire Alliance, the ICC Nazi Draco Alliance today, by far. He ordered the first attack on the Greys, the Zeta Reticuli, deep underground military base at Dulce, New Mexico. So basically, Eisenhower ordered an attack on the Greys and the Dracos in Dulce, New Mexico. And this isn't the Dulce Wars that happened in the 70s. This is a Dulce war that nobody talks about. This is this level of top secret that I just got in contact with like 2 years ago.
Okay.
Or a year ago with meeting this guy. Okay. So he ordered the first attack on the Greys, the Zeta Reticuli, in the deep underground military base at Dulce, New Mexico, knowing that he would lose that battle just to learn more about his enemy and to test his best against them. They, parentheses, the U.S. Army Rangers, also the Green Berets, lost 30-1 back then. This battle at that deep underground military base of the Greys occurred more than a decade before the one reportedly to have occurred in 1969, okay, which is the one you and I are talking about. So
yeah.
I guess it was 1969. And a much larger engagement. Several thousand U.S. Special Forces troops engaged against the Greys forces then, and nearly half of them lost their lives in that action. Ike also established the White Hats, the first of which were Texan U.S. generals and admirals. That's where the name White Hats came from. Ike's White Hats are the ones that brought Ronald Reagan into the fold right after the ICC Nazi Draco Alliance had him shot for attempting to disclose the secret space program fully. I mean, it's like it goes on and on and on. And then it brings in the European Alliance and Balfour and all this kind of stuff. So
really quick, I don't mean to cut you off, but I got a question. Now, Reagan was, from what I remember, responsible for like Star Wars, and during his administration, they said it closed down. Do you think like was he shot because of that whole Star Wars project, and was Star Wars that project used to protect the Earth from the Greys and the Draconians?
Yeah, I mean, that's all connected, and that's really when the establishment of the Earth Alliance and when the Sphere Beings came in, and when the secret space programs really, the Earth Alliance is pretty much like the enemy of like the rest of the levels, because it's really on a ground level trying to support humanity and help humanity.
Okay.
And that connects with the Sphere Beings, connects with Balfour, and so all this other kind of stuff like the Draco Alliance, they have a lot of imposters that will present themselves as looking or appearing to be benevolent, but they aren't. So this kind of galactic war and what we're seeing on a ground level with military and like White Hats, it's like we're dealing with like, Eisenhower, like knowing this, tried to set some things in place. So this cover up and all the disinformation saying that Eisenhower sold us out to the Greys with the GRANDDAD Treaty, those are all lies. That's not true. In actual fact, MJ-12 signed those treaties behind Eisenhower's back. And he set all these things in motion in order to safeguard us in these times that we're in. But that's what we're dealing with right now. Rewritten history and blaming the wrong people.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of battle that I'm in, because people are so confused. Like, oh, your great-grandfather sold us out to the Greys. And it's like, no, in actual fact, in 1952, he tried to take down the bases. Yeah. And also, he tried to invade Area 51. Yeah. And he lost control. And so the greater benevolent beings came through to help him set up things that are things like the Earth Alliance, the White Hats, the Ike's Force, and positive military that are going to help us in these times. I know it's like crazy, guys, and it sounds really confusing. The problem is there's a lot of disinformation. So even a lot of the credible whistleblowers didn't have access to this top secret information. Right. So they would expose things like, oh, yeah, Eisenhower signed the treaties, because that's what they were told, because they didn't have the ability to access those upper levels, right? So even the whistleblowers thought Eisenhower signed the treaties, but and they didn't know. They were well-intentioned, but in actual fact, Eisenhower did not sign the treaties, and he set up things to counteract the fact that it was done behind his back, and there's a deeper thing going on. And Dulce, yeah, there was a war there way before the one in 1969 which Phil Schneider talked about.
Yep.
And both William Cooper and Phil Schneider both were murdered.
And Tom Castiello along with them. Yeah. And it's crazy. Now, your great granddad, definitely, because what I've been sharing on the channel and what I've come across is he never sold us out. From what I gathered, it more or less was Truman that really kind of pulled the strings behind everything during that time.
Yeah, well, it was in 1952 that the unconditional surrender took place.
Yeah.
And who knows, what position, Truman was in. This was, the end of the Second World War, Project Paperclip, and, the things that were going on with the Nazis, and not Preston Nichols, but, oh gosh, there's one major researcher that really, really pulls that history together about the Khazarian Mafia and the Nazis during that time. So in Truman's administration, after the Second World War, and then all of a sudden Eisenhower starting to become president, the setup of like MJ-12 and the three-letter organizations in 1947, Paperclip, Mockingbird, and all that kind of stuff. This Eisenhower wanted to defeat the Nazis and help liberate us. He got caught up in some, crazy stuff. And so in order to hide their nefarious ways, they created disinformation kind of campaign to create a disclosure that would make it look like Eisenhower signed the deals with the Grace. And so we have to understand that there's false disclosure. Right. So the real disclosure is that there was an unconditional surrender agreement in 1952, and that the GRANDDAD Treaty was not something that Eisenhower was consenting to. It was done behind his back by MJ-12, and we are now dealing with, in the here and now, this next level of dark, negative alien agenda that has nothing to do with anything Eisenhower consented to. And that's beside the point. It's like, what are we going to do as a humanity, right?
Yeah.
So Balfour and other, like the Sphere Beings and all these other benevolence and the Guardian groups, he set something up for them to play a part in our world right now to counteract this level of trickery and deception. But a lot of it isn't that they're just going to come in and save the day, because there's a lot of imposter beings that are part of that Draco Alliance. A lot of it has to do with our own self-development, our own soul growth, our own ability to recognize that the war is on consciousness, and it's on us through mind control, psyops, social engineering, and plandemic, and like all the crap we're seeing in the Project Mockingbird, just fake news, and the psychological operations on humanity. That's the war we're in right now.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you a quick question about now. I don't know if you've, because obviously you have talked to a lot of people, and a lot of my channel is I talk about, the dumbs, I talk about cryptids, I talk about a lot. And while I was researching Dulce, Nightmare Hall was one thing that kind of really piqued my interest, because of what I also talk about is like cryptids like Bigfoot, like the Dogman, this crawler thing that people are seeing nowadays, this kind of human-like pale creature with long arms. And I don't know if you've seen any videos of them or heard anything.
What's the name you called it?
The crawlers.
Oh, right. Okay.
And they resemble a gray, and there's numerous kind of encounters with them. They resemble a gray, but without such a bulbous head, very long arms. And I know with like what was going on in Nightmare Hall with the genetic kind of manipulation and stuff like that, when the guys in 69 went down and tried to rescue the women that were being kidnapped and used as everything.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if any of these like genetic monsters, pretty much, could have escaped during that time. Have you ever heard of anything like that? Like anything about Nightmare Hall and the the atrocities that went on there, and if there was any kind of genetic manipulation to create any of this stuff that people are seeing nowadays, because they do resemble like the quote unquote aliens from TV and movies.
That might have escaped, and people are having sightings. You're saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much of that. Skinwalker Ranch and certain locations where these kind of activities are happening. I mean, it's one of many stories. I'm not so familiar with the one that you're talking about, and I would really like you to send me as much information on it as possible, because
Sure.
I think I might. It'll flip my memory if you can send it along. But yeah, this is what we're kind of dealing with: underground bases, stargates, and portals, and opening up things to higher dimensional energies. And yeah, and if something can escape, and yeah, and like the whole Mothman thing. I mean, it's just we're dealing. We're in a multidimensional deal, and there's a lot of experimentations going on, lots of labs, lots of underground bases. They're under our hospitals, they're under our airports, they're everywhere. There's deep underground military bases everywhere, like all over. Like Phil Schneider said, there's probably like 1,000, more than 1,000 all over the world. We know like Pine Gap and all this stuff, but smaller versions, that connect into a tunnel system. And then, of course, when it comes to child trafficking, pedophilia stuff, the Getty Museum and how that connects to different celebrity houses. I mean, there's a whole world going on, right? And then you got your subterranean civilizations. You got things like Agartha and Talos and, higher advanced civilizations going on beneath our feet. So you got underground bases with a lot of nefarious activity, and you've got, very advanced civilizations right under our feet, and also beyond in the star systems that are beyond this earth, right? So it's very interesting what is so deep beneath this earth and what is so beyond, but it's all a part of our DNA. It's all a part of our chakra system and the 15-dimensional time matrix, and the fact that we are 12-strand DNA and beyond, and we're functioning at a very low level. So when we interact or begin to understand that these other beings exist, there's a difference between the ones that have been genetically modified, engineered, or created in a lab versus, the beings that are just a part of the landscape of our multidimensional self. So, and this is the thing with my labs, military operations where there's abductions and they're using technology to create a fake abduction scenario versus a legitimate extraterrestrial experience. So we got the military weapon sort of aspect to it, and the genetic sort of experimental, mad scientists, Mengele kind of and all the horrific MK Ultra kind of stuff. And then you got the more organic sort of multi-dimensional layers of, our galactic history and our genetic codes that connect to all these different star systems that connect us with these different beings that we're going to encounter. So people are going to see extraordinary things. And we have to be able to discern between what is holographic, what is sort of military, what is a weaponized version versus a true legit experience that has something to do with your own soul evolution and you having the capacity to switch on your dormant DNA and become more of a galactic divine sovereign being, so that we can advance this human vessel and get the fuck out of this prison planet bullshit.
Right. Yeah, and when you just said the holographic, I had done a video about that, I think about last week, where there was an abduction, but it wasn't an abduction. It was created through this kind of secret government, using holograms and making these people believe that they were being abducted by aliens with the bulbous head, and yet it was humans doing the thing to kind of manipulate and spread, disinformation.
Right. They can just say, oh yeah, those are aliens, but no, there's military behind it. So when I was recruited to go off planet, the aviary, the group that was responsible for that, and I know that's another like huge conversation. They are connected with those kind of technologies, artificial telepathy, making it look like, oh, the aliens did it when it's really like a military operation, and it's just so complex. It's so much to wrap one's head around.
Yeah, definitely. Now I know that you've got a lot. You're busy today, and we were gonna not do a very long interview. But one last question. With your great grandfather and him warning us against the military industrial complex, what do you think he would think if he was alive right now to see where we are and at this very day and what has occurred since him being alive? Do you think what would his view be? You think?
I think he knows that it comes down to the individual, because part of his speech was also it needs to be a alert and knowledgeable citizenry to be able to process and accept just what is really, really going on. I mean, this is not something we should be waiting on from the government as far as disclosure is concerned.
Right.
We have to take it upon ourselves to do the research, to dig deep, because there's so many layers to disclosure, and there's a lot of trickery and deception and a lot of compromised people in the political sphere, and government is just it got massively compromised, as we all know. So I think he's really just hoping on like each individual to build on a soul level, to process information, go down the rabbit holes, find discernment, do the spiritual work, the energy work, to face your own shadow, to find your own truth, so that you can operate from that frequency and see through the distortions in the lies and find the truth, so that you can navigate your way out of this mess and be on a healthy timeline that is going to lead you to a beautiful future. I'm sure he's super concerned at all the different tactics being used that are playing on people, siphoning their life force, infecting their creative imagination, and leading them down a trajectory that is not going to bring very positive results. It's going to lead to a lot of devastation. So a lot of us are witnessing all this, because we see friends and family that are going off in those directions, and we don't want them to. But they don't understand that it's not about belief systems or politics. It's about doing something else on an extraordinary level to really be able to get rid of all these things that are trying to hook into you, so that you can really connect with the fullness of what this divine inheritance within our DNA is. Because these dormant strands connect to higher harmonic universes and all these other extraterrestrial races. But because of AI and how they've weaponized it and been able to reverse engineer and sort of like figure out a way to kind of mimic it and present like a false version, artificial timelines and these psyops and false narratives are very, very prevalent, and people are very vulnerable and susceptible to buying into it, to the point where I think he's just like me on the ground level, just like worried about some of our friends and family that are going to be duped, they're going to be compromised, that are going to be hurt because of it. But at the same time, I know we both share in common that we have a greater faith that if they have to go down that road, they will hit that wall and have a breakthrough, have an epiphany, and begin to wake up and begin to come home and begin to heal and remove themselves from those nefarious forces that are vampiric and parasitic, that want to just assimilate them into AI and some sort of hive mind. So I don't know, like, I feel like him and I work so closely together that he's probably processing things in a similar way. But I know he set some things in motion, and I think he's feeling very confident that those things are going to rise and shine, and it has a lot to do with all of us. It's not like somebody's going to come save the day, but what he set in motion is something of a presence that is here with us, a benevolent extraterrestrial or in beyond, guardian presence, spirit being alliance presence, that's going to assist us and inspire us to step up to the plate, be the best of ourselves, so that we can become a team and purge out all the evils and rescue these children and and create justice so that the crimes against humanity will no longer be an issue. So, I just think he's right there with us, just still working with it all, and me that are doing all that we can, and he loves Mother Earth. I mean, we're descendants from Mennonites, and just the close connection with Mother Earth, and just the abundance that we can create with the elementals and just the earth around us, and just working together and pulling our resources together and our missions together so that we can take care of future generations and protect our children and protect this planet. I think, he's cheering us on, but, we're all heartbroken and devastated at where, people get hurt and people get duped and people get deceived.
Yeah. But it's like what you said. He said that so we'd actually kind of but put our big boy pants on and, do it for ourselves, because that's the only way we're going to accomplish a win over this. So, yeah.
Yes. Beautiful way to wrap it up. Yep.
But
that's it.
I appreciate you coming on. Do me a favor, don't hang up. I'm going to end the interview, but I'd like to talk to you for 1 second afterward. It was wonderful having you on. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks. And sorry, everybody, if I talk too fast and I sound, we got fires going on around and like all sorts of crazy things have happened in my life lately. So hopefully the message got delivered. But it's not easy to communicate right now, but I hope you guys got something out of it. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Guys, an amazing interview, an amazing person, Laura Eisenhower. Just a really nice woman. I know a lot of people don't agree with what she says, and a lot of people do. And you're always gonna have people like that. People make up things about me all the time, and it's just the way it is. She's out here sharing information that she has compiled, and that's how it's supposed to be. It's not a who has more friends, who has more subscribers, who has this, who has that. It's all about sharing the information and getting information shared with you as well. So, guys, thank you for supporting the channel. Your support is what makes this channel so special. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. I'm hitting the hay for a little while, but God bless you all.